the Everything But Politics podcast.
Away we go. Welcome back, everybody, to the Everything But Politics podcast. My name is Merrick Leeser, alongside Ethan and Evan Leeser. And today's episode is one I've been looking forward to for a couple months. You might have just heard that cork open in the back. We got our guy Drew Bledsoe joining us from the Pacific Northwest. Drew, great to have you on our show. It's an honor to be with you, man.
Welcome.
Yeah, right on. Cheers, guys. Yeah, pleasure to be on with you guys too.
Cheers. Now I got to ask, did you just bottle of white or red right there?
So this is some Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley of Oregon. This one's actually not ours. We still buy some wine from some of our friends as well. But it's called work. You got to try a lot of different wine. Research and development is very important. So you got to try a lot of different wines.
Well, as you mentioned,
I was actually from Bethel Heights over in the Willamette Valley. Some of the OGs in the Willamette Valley. Some of the early one of the early families that started a winery over in the Willamette Valley in Oregon.
That's very cool. So as how often or how frequently are you trying new wines? Nightly?
Yeah, I would say most nights we'll open a bottle of wine at dinner. Sometimes just purely for enjoyment, but also, every once in a while we'll try something new and kind of see how the neighbors are doing or see how people are doing in other parts of the world. So there's always that educational aspect to it, but it's also pretty enjoyable. Let's call it what it is. I just love it. I just love it.
Where did the love come from?
It's pretty. We got to the league. We had a couple nickels in our pocket, and so we'd go out to eat, and we would order wine just because we were supposed to. We're trying to act like we're grown up, so we're like, all right, we're gonna order wine now because look how sophisticated we are. And then very quickly though, kind of learned that it was something that was different that really kind of resonated with me and with my wife, where it's just there's a lot more going on. It's not college was beer and whiskey and whatever we could get our hands on, but just trying to catch a buzz. But with wine, it was like it's more. There's a lot of complexity, a lot of nuance to wine, and I find that it just makes a dinner taste better. So that was really kind of how it started. Though we just started ordering wine because we were supposed to, and then started to buy wines from all over the world, and then I found out my hometown, the place that I grew up in, is one of the world's greatest places, truly one of the greatest places in the world for growing wine grapes. So I got to go back home to my little small town and start a business there.
Wow.
That's pretty badass. And when it comes to being the best place, one of the best places in the world when it comes to wine grapes, what about the climate or environment gives you that luxury to have these beautiful grapes?
All right, man. Well, you started it, so you're gonna have to drink from the fire hose. I'm gonna give you a little wine dork education for a minute, okay?
So learn.
Yeah. So when you're talking about what makes particular places unique for growing grapes, they're very specific places. It's Bordeaux, Burgundy, Piedmont, Tuscany in Italy. The Napa Valley, Sonoma Valley, the Willamette Valley of Oregon, and then the Walla Walla Valley is one of those really unique places. And it really comes down to a couple things. You've got your soil and your different aspects to the soil, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then you've got weather, and then you also have your slopes, which way you're facing. Are you facing toward the sun, so it's hot, or away from the sun? Then you've got wind and just all of these environmental factors that go into it. But for me, the craziest thing, man, is if I knew I was going to be a geology nerd in my professional life, man, I would have paid more attention in geology 101 in college. We called it rocks for jocks because, you'd go and the geology prof was a football fan. So if you showed up, he'd just give you an A. Well, now I'm kind of a geology nerd because the Northwestern United States. So it's kind of cool because you got the map up behind you up there. So I'm just looking at this while I'm talking. But the Northwestern United States, there are a couple of things that happened, over the last few billion years that are unique in the history of the world. So the largest lava flows they've ever discovered evidence of in the history of the world happened in the Northwestern United States. From the southern part of Canada across Idaho, western Montana, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Northern California, parts of Utah, and all the way out into the Pacific Ocean. These massive lava flows from a couple billion years ago.
Wow.
And that's the bedrock of everything that's underneath the entire Northwest. Well, when that happened in our little valley, which is in the very south eastern corner of Washington State, as that lava cooled, and in places it's like over a mile thick, right? Well, as that lava cooled in our valley, what they think happened is that it was so heavy that it sank, right? And so when it happened, it created essentially like this 20-mile wide bathtub of a valley that has this bedrock of basalt. And in and of itself, that's not important. But then you flash forward to the end of the last ice age, and this one's actually kind of cool. You can go look this up on YouTube. So they're the largest floods they've ever discovered evidence of in the history of the world happened in the Northwest. So down out of Canada, big ice dam during the ice age comes down, blocks up what's now the Clark Fork River, and backs this lake up that's like the size of one of the Great Lakes. Well, they think it was like every, I don't know, 35 to 40 years, there'd be enough pressure that ice dam would break and all this water would come down at one time. So imagine like one of the Great Lakes just immediately draining all at one time. So they estimate that. So there's this gorge called the Columbia River Gorge that forms the border of Oregon and Washington. And they think when these floods were happening, the flow rate down the Columbia River Gorge was greater than 10 times all of the world's rivers at once. So you take all the world's rivers, multiply it by 10, and it was more water than that all at one time. So as that happened, all this water rushes down, it hits this cliff band outside of Walla Walla, and all this water pushes back up into that 20-mile wide bathtub, and the water stagnates, and all this sediment falls out. So now you've got this sedimentary soil that came down from Canada that fills up our valley. That turns out is just an amazing place for growing things, and for wine grapes. You want them to have stress, man. And so this soil that we have is super porous. The vines have to work really hard, to dig deep for nutrients and for water. And anytime, think about, it's like being a human, right? If everything's easy for you and you don't stress yourself and you don't do things that are hard, you end up flabby and uninteresting, right? But if you have to fight through, and work hard, then you develop character. Well, the same is true in wine grapes, that if these vines have to work hard, they develop complexity. And then you can taste that in all of the complexity that comes through in wine. So, hey man, you threw me in my briar patch, dude. So, sorry awesome. Sorry for just the quick little geology lesson, but man, I just think it's really, really cool. And then when you can taste all of that history in the bottle, it just makes it more interesting.
Black and Tan. Brick House Coffee has welcomed this pub-inspired blend into its family as a gift to the indecisive. A flawless and balanced fusion of our darkest black roast and the flavor-packed lightly roast El Corazon. This certified organic coffee crushes the stigma of the just average middle child. Not this guy, but bold yet clean finishing. It is a delight that satisfies down to the final drop. Perfect for the whole family, regardless of rank in birth order, and crafted with the purity and care of certified organic beans. Brick House Coffee Co., the best. Now back to the episode.
That was very cool.
That was awesome.
It's truly fascinating. So as you take a sip right now and you break down the history going back billions and billions of years, I would imagine that gives you a completely different respect per bottle. Is it possible to taste the history?
That's a great question. And look, so one thing I will say about the wine business that we're in, and I really enjoy it. Obviously, I love it. I'm passionate about it, but it's also kind of ripe to be made fun of. There's some of these guys that start talking about wine. It's like, oh yeah, you can, and like some of this stuff gets a little over the top. But I do think that the well-made wines in the world do give you a sense of place. You can actually there's some interesting books out there that really kind of trace the history of the world through wine. They're actually through beverages also, because beer is part of that too. So I think you can make the case that you can take a tour of the world with wines. And generally, one of the things that's kind of interesting, because people are like, well, what should we pair this wine with? They're like, well, it's actually pretty simple. If you look at the different regions of the world, you look at what they eat there, and the wine that they make there is going to go great with that food, because this happens over wine's been around for thousands of years. their wine tends to go, so like you go to Spain, and they eat a lot of beef in Spain. So you got these big Spanish Riojas that go great where, you go to the different, even just the different parts of Italy, the different wines there, they work better with the food that's actually grown and raised in those particular regions, which is kind of cool. So I don't know if that answers your question. You could make a case that you can taste some of the history and the
Mhm.
complexity but that also gets down a rabbit hole where you can kind of start to sound like an idiot. But
Also,
but what's up?
so I was gonna say, Drew, outside of the history, which will make a bottle expensive, what would be the taste difference? I'm not the most well versed in wine between
Yeah.
like a $50 bottle and a $500 bottle outside of just
Yes.
where it was grown.
Yeah. So, to me, the bigger difference is from like say a $15 bottle and the 50 to $100 bottle, right?
Yeah,
In that range. Because,
sure.
these really like the really inexpensive wines, then you get into wines that are kind of manufactured and then maybe sometimes aren't even just pure grape juice. I can find you a killer $50 bottle from Washington State. But the biggest thing to me that I look for in wines that we buy from other vineyards and the wines that we aspire to make is they have enough complexity that they get more interesting the more time you spend with them, right? So you like your first sip, like, oh, cool, that's I can taste that, some cherries, and there's a little bit of oak in there, whatever. But then you get like second glass, and all of a sudden it's still showing you different nuances and different flavors and different textures and so on. And to make those kinds of wines, you need first of all amazing, fruit. From vineyards. But then you also need a really deft touch from a winemaker that's really going to allow those nuances to shine through rather than just letting stuff get overripe, throwing a bunch of oak on it and bottling it. You really need a winemaker that's going to bring in the different aspects of the different vineyards and truly try to create something that's got complexity and gets more and more interesting, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
totally.
at the end of the day, though, man, we talk about this all the time. At the end of the day, it's got to be pleasurable. There's some of these guys that I know that in the wine business, man, they get so caught up in like, man, this is so interesting and it's low alcohol and it comes from here. Like, well, yeah, that's all true, but it tastes like shit, like, and I, like, so at the end of the day, yeah, man, we're trying to create pleasure,
Yeah,
and that's we're trying to create pleasure. We're trying to create happiness, and it doesn't matter how interesting something is. If it doesn't bring pleasure, and in my mind, and the way that we do it, it's
yeah,
actually got to taste good. In
Yeah,
addition to that, also have some complexity to it.
agreed.
well said. And so the last 2 to 3 years, the twins and I have become very well versed in the world of coffee and coffee beans. As you can see, we got our partner Brickhouse right here. So we just drink coffee black. So when it comes to having a cup of coffee, just black coffee, we've gotten pretty good at understanding a shit coffee from a really solid cup of coffee. Is a glass of wine the complete same energy?
It's amazing that you say that. I actually was involved in a small coffee company out here, and then my buddy that I started it with, I sold my half to him because we were getting into the wine thing. But no, you hit it right on the head, man. When you really get into coffee, the different notes and the different flavors and textures that you get in coffee, it's so similar.
Mm.
When we were doing that, we do what you call it cupping in coffee, where you're trying the different roasts and different all that. And man, it's so similar. Honestly, I would say that coffee, at least to me, coffee and wine have some of the most direct parallels,
Mm.
of anything in the beverage world, certainly. And I'm with you, man. So I'll drink whatever coffee when I need that caffeine hit. But man, you get some great coffee beans that are sourced from the right place and roasted to perfection, not over roasted like
Mhm.
Starbucks where they just burn them, but actually roasted properly so you get all the flavors and nuance. I think it's so similar
And we
to the coffee world.
Yeah, we've gotten quite picky too, like, unfortunately, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but, like, no gas station coffee, none of that kinda stuff. It's gotta be clean fuel. Now
Mhm.
with that said, if you're on an airplane, random, wine, will you have that or nah?
Dude, sometimes you just need that caffeine, or sometimes you just want a glass of wine. But here's a hack for you though. If you're gonna drink shitty wine, you're gonna drink airplane wine. Just get some ice cubes and throw some ice cubes in it. Like it kind of deadens the flavor. If you so that my wife, I used to try to pretend, I would, get a glass of wine on an airplane and I'd like, hey, can you bring me an ice water? And then when nobody was looking, I'd throw some ice cubes out of my ice water into the wine. And now I don't even pretend anymore. I was like, you just bring me a glass of red wine, but throw some ice cubes in it. Because you think about like if you're drinking if you've ever had a warm Coors Light, oh, dude, it tastes like ass. But if it gets cold, if it's really cold, then it kind of deadens it a little bit, and you can do it. So there's one workaround for wine, is to just make it colder, and then it plus it kind of dilutes it. So if it's not good, at least it dilutes it a little bit. But I'm with you on the coffee, man. I drink a ton of coffee, and man, we're very, very selective with the beans that we have.
Yeah,
I get it.
gotta be.
Well, Drew, there's an old expression people say, age like fine wine. What is the truth to aged wine? Is it really better?
That totally depends. There's probably in all the wine that's made in the world, it's probably, I don't know, 3 or 4% of all the wine made in the world is actually designed to be aged and will get better. So, a solid 95, 96% of wine that's made in the world is just, it's designed and it should be consumed within the first couple of years. But there's specific wines, like our wine, and what determines that is if a wine is well made and it's balanced, where everything is in harmony with the alcohol, fruit, tannin, structure in the wine, and it's clean wine with no additives. Then it has a chance to actually really improve over time. Some of the old world wines, like from Italy and from France, they need some time to kind of settle down and mellow. And there's science behind that. I won't go deep into the science with you because I've already nerded out enough. But I would say just in general, most wine is designed to be consumed within the first few years.
Okay.
We have some stuff that's in our cellar that's been aged for a while, and it kind of becomes a little bit of a gamble, man. It's like some of them age really, really well, and others, man, they tip over and they all the fruit goes away, the structure falls down. So you just got to be careful with that. But in general, you're gonna go pick up a bottle of wine for the house. Most wines are designed to be consumed early.
Okay. And if you are aging wine, how do you know like when it's ready? Are you taste testing it every year?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that some, and some of the Italian stuff that we have. After it's 10 years old, then maybe go crack a bottle and then kind of keep some notes as to whether I thought it was ready to rock and roll or whether it needs to chill for another 4 or 5 years. So. Again, that's more research. That you got to drink wine. So they got a lot of research.
Well, okay, so true. Let's talk about Ethan mentions aging like fine wine. If you're gonna drink a bottle of wine a night, you obviously take very good care of yourself. So let's talk about the aging like fine wine part. What do you do at this point in your life to keep good health and take care of yourself?
It's certainly different, than when I was playing. When I was playing, it was a lot of heavyweights and going hard. I'm 54 now, and flexibility becomes a huge piece of how I feel. If I keep my hips loose, then my back doesn't hurt, especially, man, all the travel I've been doing recently. I've been sitting on airplanes and sitting in cars. Man, if I don't stretch, man, then my back just gets locked up and my whole body hurts. So, on the physical activity side, I still lift, but it's not heavy weights like I used to. It's more, lower weights, higher volume. Do some cardio, get on the old Peloton, and then when the weather's nice, I get on my bike out here. And then just generally, just active, man. We ski a bunch. I was skiing a bunch this last winter. But yeah, I still incorporate the weights, but it's in a different way than back in the old days where I was throwing around heavy weights. But and then, for me, it's just, I don't have a specific regimen on the lifting and on the workout side. But I just try to do something every day. Even if I'm traveling, if I'm in a hotel room, I can just do some body weight stuff in a hotel room. Even if I don't have time to go get dressed and go to the gym, I can still do some body weight stuff. And I just try to do something every day. And then, then obviously I think we're all really paying a lot more attention to what we put in our body, from a from a nutrition standpoint. And again, I'm far from super regimented on that, but I do try to, whenever possible, to try to eat clean, and try to eat natural things and as much as possible. Um,
Okay.
it gets hard. It gets hard on the road, and I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Every once in a while, that quarter pounder with cheese just hits just right. So I don't eliminate all of it, but it's just uh, try to eat stuff that's good for me, and then the other thing that's intentional, but it also makes me kind of sad is that I don't eat nearly as much as I used to, man. I used to be able to eat, dude. Oh man, and it was just, and I loved it, man. Just bring it on. Give me another steak. Then I'll 2 bowls of ice cream afterward, man, and just burning calories. And so I could do that now, man. I bet I eat on average. I bet I eat about a third of what I used to eat across the course of a day, which it kind of sucks, man, because I really like eating and I love ice cream, dude. If I could, that's like of all the things I miss from being young, dude, ice cream is way high on that list, dude. I would just sit down with a big bowl of ice cream right after dinner and just sit there watching TV and just hammer about it.
I get
Half
it.
a quart of ice cream, man. I love it. So, but if I did that now, I'd be 400 pounds, and I don't want to do that.
I love a little vanilla or mint chocolate chip ice cream here and there.
Oh,
So
mint chocolate chip. Come on, dude. You're just preaching to the choir with that one, dude. I love some mint chocolate chip.
yeah, that's the bomb. So when it comes to nutrition, then, so why is it that they say red wine and steak, white wine and fish? What's the relationship?
It's just style. There's a lot of tannins in these red wines that work with the steak. And it's heavier, heartier wine just generally. And then your white wines with a lighter fish. Sometimes a red wine will can overpower fish. I do tell people all the time, because they'll ask me that, and I'm like, dude, if there's a particular wine you really like and a particular food that you really like, they're probably going to work out all right. It's not a
Yeah.
hard and fast rule. Like we'll drink some Pinot Noir with some fish, and I don't generally do Chardonnay with steak, but I've seen people do that before too. But yeah, just in terms of just, and again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Spain, big red wines and eat a lot of beef. You go to like the coastal parts of Italy, it's a lot more white wine because a lot of their food came from the ocean, and so those they generally um, focus on wines that go with the food that's indigenous to their part of the world.
Understood. And in the Bledsoe household, what's the ratio? What's the split between red wine to white wine?
90-10,
Mm.
90-10 toward red wine. I'll drink. I do enjoy some wine, and our crew at the winery makes some really really killer Chardonnay that I truly enjoy. But it's probably 90-10 red to white.
And this might be the biggest hack for those listening on the episode. I think you're going to give a beautiful answer. How can we drink red wine without staining our teeth?
So, all right. So this is actually kind of interesting, because I drink a lot of red wine. I haven't done any of it in years or anything. It's actually pretty funny though. I'm just sitting here talking to you guys, and I looked down, and my wife's got these whitening strips sitting on my desk in my
That's funny.
office. So maybe she's giving me a hint that I need to. But honestly, man, I drink a lot of red wine, and I don't end up very often with like the purple teeth thing. And I think the reason for that is honestly the stuff that really stains your teeth is not natural grape juice. Like
Mm.
some of these wines that are manufactured,
Mhm.
there's this stuff. It's called mega purple, which is essentially colored sugar water that goes in as an additive to some of these manufactured wines. And we drink generally pretty good wine, man, and my teeth never end up purple. But you go drink some some inexpensive wine that's manufactured. I think that's where that stuff comes from. Don't
That makes
quote
a
me
lot of
on that.
sense.
don't quote me on that. I mean, I put it out there. So, but
No, I'm
I
a,
mean, I'd buy it. Yeah, I get
I
it.
can't tell you. I can't tell you the science
Yeah.
behind it. I can just tell you that we drink a lot of red wine, and my teeth aren't purple. Because we're always drinking good shit.
no, I'm gonna put that through Claude. I gotta get to the bottom of that because Mega Purple sounds like something I'd buy in the medicine section at CVS.
Yeah, something they put in
Yeah,
drinking.
absolutely, man. Yeah, no,
No.
it's one of those dirty little secrets
Oh.
from some of these wineries that they're buying purple
Interesting.
sugar water and fermenting that.
Is that on the label? Like, how would you know if it's in the wine?
No, it's that's why I say it's one of those dirty little secrets. Nobody talks about it. That's why you've never heard of it before. But now I'm outing some of these guys that are making fake wine.
Appropriately named El Corazon, the heart, is a culmination of strenuous labor and enduring passion for exceptional coffee. Not just any coffee, Brickhouse coffee. This organic gem embodies the very essence of Brickhouse coffee in many more ways than one. Each sip reveals the culture and authenticity of the farmer's personal touch. Nurtured through organic practices, lightly roasted, flavorful, and highly satisfying. Each certified organic bean is a gift from our Honduran brothers and sisters, and we're proud to extend this pure and heartfelt piece of our heart to you. Brickhouse Coffee, El Corazon. Get it now, link in description.
Now, Drew, it is 4 something. I don't know the exact time. It's like 4:25 Pacific Standard Time. Is that your first sip of wine today?
That is my first sip of wine today. I flew back from Boston this morning, and even if I'm claiming that it's for research, dude, I'm not having wine at 5 in the morning on an airplane. That's the sign of a problem. So yeah, no. Usually, yeah. I mean, we might have a glass of wine with lunch some days, but usually in the evening, get ready to make dinner, and then when we're having dinner, generally when we'll start cracking some wine.
It's a good
Now,
vibe.
now, to the business side of owning a winery, what were some of when you started the winery? What did you think it was going to be like versus what it actually is like now that you're operating and running it daily?
There's some pieces of it that are very, very close to what I expected. And then there's some pieces that I just had no idea. So a few examples, one of the things that drew me to wine as a business is that it's an extremely complex business. So you think about it, we're in real estate first, we're buying land. Then we're farmers, right? And everything that goes into that. And I want to talk more specifically about farming here in a minute. Then we're into production and all the nuance that goes into that. Then we're into marketing and branding. Then we're into sales. Then we're into customer service. Then we're into customer follow through and retention. And then wine, man, you got to have a great accountant, because you have product cycles that are 3 years long. And so you're depreciating things over time. So that was one of the ones that, man, I certainly don't do my own accounting, but I've learned a lot of it, a lot more than I certainly ever did in college. Just because it's so complex in our business because the product cycles are so long. And so that complexity was something that was intriguing to me when we got into the business. And that's definitely been true. One of the dirty little secrets that you don't think about when you're getting into wine is that just within the United States, you're dealing with 50 different countries. Every state has its own laws and its own compliance regulations. And so we actually have a part-time person that just manages, because we're sold in, I think, 46 or 47 states, at least online. And each of those states has its separate rules and regulations that you have to comply. We sent a state, or we sent a, one year we had to send a check to the state of New Hampshire for 47 cents. So it's like the stamp was more expensive than the friggin' check, but we had to do that to stay within compliance with that. But one of the cool things though that I talk about quite a bit is that at a high level, like a 30,000 foot level, being the quarterback of a football team and owning and directing a business are so similar. It's
Mhm.
the same things that determine whether you're going to succeed or whether you're going to fail. It's having a great plan. It's executing with precision in everything that you do. It's having a great team with all the right players in the right positions. Right. You got to put the right people in the right spots. And then one of the big ones for us is embracing adversity. When you're playing ball, man, adversity is going to come at you, every week, every game, every play. And you either embrace that adversity and use it to drive you to get better, or you fold and you got to go find something. You got to go find another line of work. Well, in our business, man, we've learned to embrace adversity when it comes at us, and every time we face something that was a problem, we've come out the other side of it better as a company. And to the point now where we kind of, when something bad happens, we're like, cool, this is going to be great for us. We don't know how yet, but it's going to be great for us.
Yeah.
And that's generally has been the case. Um, so yeah, it's been a really fun business. Um, you know, when we started, like probably the first few years we were in the business, the thing that I was most proud of was when we would get to sit down and have a glass of wine that we made and share that with friends. That was the thing that
That's
brought me
fun.
the
Yeah.
most pride, which is really, really fun. Love that.
Mhm.
But now when people ask me what I'm most proud of now, it's the business and the culture we've built within our business, the people that we have.
That's awesome.
And we've been extremely intentional about creating culture within our company. With the one of the adversities that hit us when this is probably a decade ago now ish. We were a much smaller company then, but I think we only had 7 direct employees, and 3 of them left in about a 6-month or 6-week period. And we're like, oh, okay. His first one leaves, you're like, okay, well, that was an opportunity they had. The second one, well, that was a family thing. Third one leaves, you're like, all right, what are we doing, man? People are leaving us. And so we decided at that point to get extremely intentional about building company culture. And now I think, including our farming company now, I think we're 65 total employees.
Awesome.
And
That's
man,
amazing.
nobody leaves us anymore. Nobody leaves us. And if they do, they're really sad about it.
Yeah.
They leave
Yeah.
because they leave because they really have to. So
Mhm.
that was one of the adversities that got thrown at us that really um, has actually, created the company that we've become.
Beautiful.
And prior to founding your winery, had you taken on any entrepreneurial pursuits prior?
The wine thing, we'd already bought property when I was still playing back. I think we bought our first piece of ground in 2003. And then my last year in ball was '06, and we started the winery in '07. So we had really started planning for that. But we did start a coffee company, which that for me was I looking back on it, I kind of call that business school. And largely because I learned a lot because we did a lot wrong, quite
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
in that company. And one of the biggest fallacies that we fell into was, we're just gonna roast better coffee and we're gonna produce better beans out of our place, and that's what people are gonna gravitate to. Well, it turns out that's one piece of the equation.
Mhm.
But you can't just say, "Hey, our product's better, so people are gonna buy it." That's not how it works. You
Yeah.
really have to get out in front of people. You got to tell the story why, and you got to get it in front of people. My old business partner, who's actually turned that company into a success. What he's really figured out is that the economic driver of being in that business is actually the cup of coffee that you sell. That's where the margin is. And so he's got a bunch of coffee shops all over the place because you
Nice.
go roast the best beans in the world and sell those, great. But if you can sell somebody a $6 cup of coffee, man, the margin goes to the moon. And so he
Yes.
broke that code. Has done great with it.
Very true. And so as a former NFL quarterback, I feel so much of that is being able to control what you can control. And in your business, the wine business, a lot of it is unfortunately out of your control with weather and things of that nature because you can only control so much of that.
Mhm.
How have you shifted or drawn from your former NFL career to now as an entrepreneur in that controlling what you can control aspect?
That's a perfect point. Because there really is there are only so many things you can control, and then you have you have Mother Nature that every once in a while wants to come in and flex her muscles. We like 2 years ago, 2 years ago, wiped out. We had 5 vineyards in the Walla Walla Valley. We had this crazy freeze in January, got down to 15 below. Well, it wiped out an entire vintage from two of our vineyards.
Yeah.
And so we had to adjust to that, and we found a good answer to it, and actually again made us better. So Mother Nature's the boss. You have economic factors. Right now, people are a little worried about the economy, maybe spending less. Um, it's the most competitive industry in the world. Wine is. By the number of products out there, it's the most competitive in the world. There are 50,000 unique bottles of wine made worldwide every year.
Wow.
I think the second most is T-shirts. I think there's like 20,000 different T-shirts made every year in the world. And so you got just infinite competition. Now there's some of this bullshit news out there about alcohol being bad for you, and I'm like, well, we got to stop that.
No
But
doubt.
uh, actually, when people bring that up, we're like, okay, well, I just feel like wine should be in its own category. It's
Yeah.
like wine should be classified as food. You don't sit down with a bottle of wine because you're trying to get hammered.
Uh-huh.
You sit down with a bottle of wine to make your food taste better and have a conversation. So.
So true.
And then they're also, so we push back on that pretty hard. But in order to combat that, the controllables are what we focus on, right? So start in the vineyard, okay? So in the vineyard, Mother Nature is always going to be the boss, but a vineyard is a living environment, and they're living plants. And so just like your body, right? Are you never gonna and you're never gonna get sick because you take care of yourself? No, heck no. Everybody gets sick. That happens to everybody. But if your body is healthy, then you got a better chance of fighting that off, right? If you've been taking care of yourself, you might get sick like everybody else, but you got a better chance of withstanding that. Well, we treat that the same with the plants that we grow. We create an environment, a natural environment around each of the vineyards. We have biodiversity to create truly an ecosystem in the vineyard. We plant these pretty flowers around the vineyards that look really nice, but those also serve a purpose. They attract predatory insects that go into the vines and eat the mites and aphids, so we don't have to spray insecticides. We plant intentional cover crops in between the rows, that those become natural fertilizer rather than artificial fertilizer. But one of the biggest things that we've done, I guess, now it's been, almost 7 years. People talk about sustainability all the time, and that's a focus for us, certainly. But one thing that gets missed in that conversation is around people sustainability and how you take care of your people, right? So when you're farming, particularly fruit farming in northern latitudes, you're generally talking about seasonal labor. You're talking about contracted seasonal labor, people that come work for you for 7 to 9 months, and then they have to figure out how they're going to put food on the table in the wintertime. Well, in 2019, we started our own farming company. And when we did that, we set out to do it the best possible way that we could. We pay our farm workers better than anybody that we know of in the Northwest. They have health benefits, they have retirement benefits, but most importantly, what they have is they have year-round employment. So they don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. They don't have to worry about what happens if their child gets sick. And when we did that, we set out to do it because it's the right thing to do. But the benefit has been that these people now treat our vineyards like they own them. Like they take real ownership in the work that they do on a daily basis. And because of that, man, our vines get treated better than any other vines in the region. They really care about it. They talk about our vineyards. They don't talk about the boss's vineyards.
Yeah.
And so, that's another controllable, right? So when Mother Nature does decide to bring the hammer, we've created a healthy, natural environment, gives our vines a better chance to do that. On the economic impact side, look, sometimes it's just work, right? That you just have to do the work. And when I say that, our team really works hard to touch as many people directly as they possibly can, whether that's on the phone, whether that's in person. I'm heading up there this weekend. We have a big party for a few hundred people at the winery this weekend where people get to come see us. I have a list of, the team gives me a list. I'm about I think I'm about 500 people deep on the list of people that have already bought wine from us. And I just get on the phone and call them and just say thank you. Just pick up the phone, like, hey man, I know you
Cool.
bought some wine from us. I just wanted to tell you thanks for how much it is. And so sometimes that controllable is just how much time and attention are you willing to give to it. And then you have a better chance to survive when the environment is tough for your industry.
I
Oh
love that.
no.
Now, Drew, as we're on the topic of entrepreneurship and growing and scaling a business, what was the greatest piece of business advice you'd received from Robert Kraft?
This is a perfect one, man. So Kraft, um, in the way that has built his organization there, um, I asked him, and then there's another very successful sports owner that I know well, and I asked them both the same question. So, what's the one thing that separates you from the other franchises? And both of them had the same answer. They said it's not one thing; it's everything. They literally compete at every single thing that they do. So Kraft, I mean, they took over at the stadium. They own the concessions. They don't outsource the concessions so that they can have a better quality of a product inside the stadium. They control the parking. They're better at salary cap management. I think that they pay more attention, on a daily basis to the nutrition that goes in, that's in the cafeteria for the athletes. They train intentionally. They do all of these things very intentionally. And the same thing, the other owner that I've spent time with, successful NBA guy, successful NBA owner, and one of the things that he took most pride in is their player development and the G League. And I think they still call it G League. I don't know, whatever the minor league is for. That it is like our G League team places more guys onto NBA rosters than any other G League team, and so we've got a deeper bench than other organizations do. And so that's one thing I try to communicate to our team is like, look, I don't care which aspect of our business you're talking about, whether it's how we pack the bottles, because that's the last thing that we get to touch before the customer. That matters. The way that we greet people when they show up, the way that we farm, the way that we interact with other wineries, the way that we interact with distributors, all of that stuff, and like every single piece of it matters. And we're trying to compete to be the best at every aspect of our business, even the most mundane piece of our business. We're trying to be the best at.
Wow, very cool. Great insight. So I would imagine a lot of that, especially with the G League analogy, is similar to the people that have annual or that work for you and they call you our farm. It's the same kind of
Yeah.
energy.
Absolutely, it is. And one of the things that's cool about that too is that even our people on the sales side, uh, one of the things that matters. You look at studies about employee retention. Their direct financial compensation usually falls like either fourth or fifth in terms of what matters to them on a daily basis when they go to work. But one of the most important pieces is that they're proud of who they work for. They're proud of the company that they work for. And so our team that even is on the sales side, the fact that they know that we're going the extra mile to take care of the people that are working in the fields for us, that matters to them on a daily basis. When they get up and go to work, they know that they're working for a company that gives a shit about how they do things. And so sometimes you're marketing to your own company, with some of these stories that you tell, that might not ever actually see the customer, but the people that work in your company, they know about it and believe in it.
And going back to the physical production of the grapes, I would imagine that we mentioned Mother Nature. In the part of the country you're in, the Pacific Northwest, you get a lot of rainfall. Is that a good or bad thing?
All right, so here again, you just threw me right back in my briar patch, dude. So get your notepad out. So all that rain that you hear about in the Pacific Northwest, that does happen, um, particularly right now this time of year. But the reason that you hear about so much rain, is that's on the west side of the state, on the ocean side of the state. So all this moisture comes in off the Pacific Ocean, and it hits the Cascade Mountain Range that runs right down the middle of Washington and Oregon. Well, that's basically like a moisture dam. Um, and so all that moisture comes in, it hits those mountains. It either falls out as rain on the coast or as snow in the mountains. When you get to our side of the state, it's actually a desert climate. So you get to the inland part of the state. With like in our original estate vineyard, McQueen Vineyard, we'll get 4 to 6 inches of annual rainfall, and all of that falls in the wintertime. We'll have, a lot of summers where we'll get zero rainfall from, almost like right now, from like, early May through the end of October. We'll get very, very little rainfall. And so that's conducive, those long, hot summer days are really conducive to ripening fruit. But then because it's a desert climate, it also cools off really nicely at night. So it'll drop from, it could be 90 degrees in the middle of the day, and by the middle of the night, it's like 45 degrees. And so that allows your grapes to hang on the vine longer and develop that complexity. You go to the wet side, you get that, in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, you have essentially the same geological history that created that, but because that's on the wet side of the mountains, it's cooler, there's more moisture, and that's more conducive to growing Pinot Noir grapes. But same geology, different weather. But yeah, our side of the state, man, it's a desert. Like if you've ever been to Denver, if you've ever been to Denver, Colorado, man, it's sunny all the time there.
Yeah.
It's because it's on the east side of the Rocky Mountains, so all that moisture is gone by the time it gets to them, and that's what we live in.
So interesting.
So yeah, it's so interesting. So we're about to enter prime time then in Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington.
Oh, in terms of our production?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we're out there. We're telling people all the time, we'll take the Pepsi challenge with this Napa shit anytime, man. Matter of fact, when we decided we were going to get into business, like the aha moment was, when we were getting into wine, when I was playing for the Pats, there were a lot of dudes that were kind of getting into wine around the same time. Guys would come over to the house for dinner, and I would just tell them, just bring a good bottle of red wine. And for fun, we would put them all the wines in paper bags on the kitchen counter.
That's fun.
And taste through them and just vote on which one we liked the best. Well, I would put something from Washington in the lineup, and every time we did that, and these are fancy, expensive, bottles from, Napa and from Bordeaux and from Argentina. And I would throw something from Walla Walla into the lineup, and every time we would do that, we would win. So like my little hometown, man, was, kicking ass on the big boys. And so now when I'm out on the road, I'm obviously talking about our wine, but I'm actually really talking about the region, and I'm actually promoting, all of the guys and all the people that are making wine in our region, and just spreading the gospel of Washington wine, man, because we're like I say, man, we'll take the Pepsi challenge with any of these big boys. The critics love us, man. We get big scores, man. We've been top 100 wines in the world a few times. So have a lot of our contemporaries in our region. The wine geeks know about us, but the general public still doesn't know about us yet.
Well, you just put us on.
Yeah,
so-
we're looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
and Drew, do you guys do a wine tour at your winery for the public?
We do. We have multiple locations in Walla Walla.
Okay.
Downtown, we just have a wine bar. You can just walk in and get a glass of wine. But if you come out to the winery, all you just call and make an appointment. And we require that people make appointments simply because we always want it to be an intimate experience. We never want it to be crowded. You don't want to be a part of it, be with a big tour bus full of people that get off. But yeah, we do that, man. It's an awesome place to visit, man. It's a cool little town, great food, great wine, super beautiful, but it's still just a little farm town, man. It's like pickup trucks and farmers, so you show up and it feels like a very authentic experience as opposed to some of the other places you go where it can be more commercialized. But yeah, man, if anybody out there listening, man, come see us, man. I'm batting 1,000. Anytime people, I recommend Walla Walla. They come to Walla. It becomes their favorite wine destination in the United States, and they come back year after year.
I'll tell you what,
it's just a killer little spot.
we're definitely
Go
gonna be making a trip.
Yeah, we're going to come out there
Absolutely.
for sure.
You got to bring your ladies. You guys got ladies. You guys all
We're
We're
all
all single.
We're all single.
actually.
Maybe we'll meet him out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of the only downside to Walla Walla, it's a pretty small town, man. It's not a great pond to fish in if you're trying to find a date. So you kind of have to you got to bring them with you. But but shoot, man, if you can't impress a lady by taking her to wine country, then man, you just got no game.
Agreed.
I'm with you.
Drew, I want to shift gears for a moment, and I want to talk about the Tom Brady roast. How did that fall into your lap? Like, who reaches out to you to do that?
It was that came from one of the I think it was a member of Tom's the production team reached out. And initially I wasn't going to do it because we had a big, wine. It was actually it's like I don't know, it's like May 5th, I think it was. So it's like 2 years ago now. And same big party that we're hosting this weekend was happening then. And I told him, man, I'm hosting a couple hundred people at the winery. I can't make it. And then they said, well, what if we send a jet for you? I'm like, oh well, if you send a jet for me, then I'm always available.
Yeah.
And so I would do it. And then but man, it was nerve-wracking, dude. I mean, I've done plenty of public speaking, over the last, 30 years, but you know, first time doing live comedy and you got, I don't know, 20,000 people live and a few million people on Netflix watching, man, that's pretty nerve-wracking rolling that out. And the one of the interesting pieces was that my practice before the roast was with my kids. We got 4 kids. They're all kind of your guys' age. They're all in their 20s.
Yeah.
And all they've ever heard from me are like bad dad jokes and inappropriate comments at the wrong time. And so they were like, Dad, they each individually called me like, all right, what are you going to say? And so I had to run through my whole bit, all of my jokes with my kids before that, because they're like, "Hey, look, this is not about you. We got to go to work tomorrow, and if you fuck this up, this is gonna come back on us." And so, but it was really fun, man. I was glad they let me go early so then I could just chill and laugh because it's pretty
Yeah.
nerve-wracking until you go. But man, it was fun.
Absolutely. And you got like literally the greatest comedians of all time up there on stage with you as well.
I mean, obviously, Nikki Glaser just killed it. That was like her big
Yeah.
moment, dude.
That was
She's
crazy.
hosting. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's hosting the Oscars and stuff. But yeah, no, it was pretty fun. The other cool piece of that whole deal was that um, there were comedians in the audience that just showed up to watch. Like Chappelle was there, and
Cool.
he's just hanging out in the back. My brother, who's younger than I am, was down there for the thing, and I mean, I love Dave Chappelle. I think he's an absolute genius. But to my brother, like Dave Chappelle walks on water. Dude, this is like comedy Jesus, right? And so
Yeah.
we ended up at an after party with like Shane Gillis and Chappelle and all these guys at the Comedy Store in L.A. And just shooting the shit with them, man. Just great people, man. Chappelle's just such a kind person. Same with Shane Gillis. They're just great people. Um, but at about like 1:30 or 2 in the morning, one of the guys tapped us on the shoulder, like, "Hey, you probably should go upstairs. Chappelle's going on." And so we went up and sat in a room with like 40 people with Chappelle just chatting with the audience, man. He wasn't doing a set. He was just up there chatting with the audience, like, "Hey, what do y'all want to talk about?" And like, people started throwing stuff at him. So that part was super awesome, man. Just being around those guys at the after party was crazy cool.
Badass.
That's so cool.
Well, dude, this conversation's been crazy cool. I got one final question for you. As someone that's done a lot of traveling and a lot of experience of life, that question is, what is the greatest experience that you've ever invested in?
All right. Well, if I had to say one thing, I mean, I've been a skier my whole life,
Okay.
and the coolest thing I've ever done is helicopter skiing in British Columbia. Man, you go up and even if you even if you didn't ski, if you just got to go stand there, they drop you off on the top of these giant mountains up in the British Columbia Rockies, and then you get to ski this untracked powder with it just flying over your shoulders. And all that. That's my pinnacle of human
That's
existence
cool.
so far is heli skiing in the Canadian Rockies. We went up to Alaska too. I took the boys up to Alaska. So that one, that's if you want one thing, that's my one thing.
That's kick ass. So we're a little
We've
love
never
that kind of
seen-
love that kind of adventure, but we're more on the golf side of things. we that's
Oh,
where
there you
we're-
go.
Yeah.
There you go. Absolutely, man.
golfer?
I do like to play, man. My game's not very good right now, but it's early. We're just coming out of ski season up here, so I'm gonna. But yeah, I'm imagining you guys got some pretty good golf out there.
Yeah,
There's some good
Midwest
stuff here.
does Indiana, Illinois, Michigan area, a lot of good golf. So
Yeah, that's
well,
fun.
what's your greatest experience on the golf course?
Well, my favorite, we could talk for a while about my second favorite golf course in the world. There's probably like 10 candidates for number two. But my favorite all time is Cypress Point out in Monterey. That course is just so, first of all, the whole experience is super cool. It's super understated. There's never anybody there. I've had the privilege of playing there a handful of times, and there's never anybody there. But you kind of play back up in this canyon. Golf course is amazing, and the golf course is so good that you forget that you come down and you walk across 17-mile drive to like three of the most famous, most photographed golf holes in the entire world, like
Yeah.
14, 15, or 15, 16, 17, where the waves are crashing, and it's just like, man, it's just wild, man. That place is super, super cool. So that's my number one.
Awesome. Well, Drew, I've been looking forward to this since we originally booked it, and I'm really happy we were able to make it happen. It's been great meeting you and learning about the world of wine.
Yeah, we learned a lot
Yeah,
about
no
wine.
doubt.
Thank you.
This is one of those episodes where we go back and re-listen, and you kind of like, wow. It's kind of just a lot. I look forward to re-listening. For those listening currently, want to keep up with you, your winery, and all else, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. No, if you just go doubleback.com, that's our winery, and that'll take you to our landing page. People can find our stuff there. And then if people just join the list, and you'll know what new releases are happening, what's going on. And that's the easiest way. And then, I'm on Instagram too, but I'm not very consistent about it. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I hope it wasn't too boring, man. I feel like I kind of took you to school. I feel like I took you to school a little bit, but hopefully it wasn't too nerdy.
This is an education, so we appreciate.
Yeah, man. We didn't even really get to get into the football stuff too much, but maybe that'll be episode 2. Bring me back. We can actually talk some ball.
Let's do it. Sure. Drew, keep kicking ass, my friend. Appreciate your time, and look forward to doing it again.
Yeah.
Right on, guys. I appreciate you guys, man.